remotely through Zoom. We have provided options for the public to attend the meeting through the telephone, internet, or other means of remote access, and also provide the ability for persons attending the meeting not in person to hear each other at the same time. So this time I would ask that you join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, we have two items on the agenda this evening, and the first of which is the 2022 Comprehensive Plan amendments. This is Mr. Bond's item. So
yes, good evening, Council. Before you tonight is the package of comprehensive plan amendments as recommended by the city's planning commission. These should not be new to you because they have come before you previously when you adopted the docket of 2022 amendments. And I believe they have also been to the land use committee. So some of you have seen this twice already. In addition, in January, you adopted the Parks Plan by resolution to ensure our eligibility for RCO grants. And so the Parks Plan has been reviewed, and this is just the formal process of adopting it into our comprehensive plan. So the three amendments that went forward this year, as I mentioned, the Parks element and the Parks Plan were updated. So we updated the Parks element, which is, I think, chapter either 5 or 6 of the comprehensive plan. It now references the new Parks Recreation Open Space Plan, and we had to just clean up some of the terminology and do some consistency changes from the language in our Parks element to match what was in the Parks Plan. In addition, every year we update our Transportation Improvement Program. This has been vetted by the Transportation Committee a couple of times so far this year, and so the final version of the proposed tip for the next 6 and 20 years is attached to the comprehensive plan amendment package. And then finally, Jackie Brown was successful in getting the approval for the water system plan. And so this is just formally adopting the updated water system plan into the comprehensive plan. So these all made it through the planning commission pretty unscathed. There was no public testimony that was received on the package this year. And so our plan going forward is that this will be considered on June 14th. And I apologize, the staff report says that we would take public testimony. The hearing has already happened. And so we're just taking action on the 14th unless the council chooses to hold an additional public hearing. And one of the things that has to happen, this is one of the things that has to happen before the city is going to be able to update its park impact fee, as we discussed previously, is you have to adopt the new capital facilities program for parks, and then you can adopt the new park impact fee schedule. So with that, are there any questions about this year's comprehensive plan amendment package?
Questions for Nick? Go ahead, Councilmember Chang.
Nick, I just have like 4 little details about the park rec and open space plan. Do you want me to tell you them or just email them to you? They're just like little things that I noticed.
If they're just typos and minor corrections, please email them to me and I'll get them into the packet for next meeting, unless the rest of the council wants to hear what they are.
The only general comment I would have is that I really liked the pictures and the details, but as I read it, I was reminded that these details are going to change. For example, on page 61, we have pictures of 4, I think they're like historic buildings downtown. And a couple of them reference what was then the current building. For example, Knights of Pythias Lodge was then Dragonfly. That's no longer accurate. I don't know if we want to mention that it's the Polaris Theater, or maybe do we just want to put the address of the building, like 822 Bay Street? And I don't know that this is never going to be always up to date, because it's interesting how much of it is already changing in 2 years. But those struck me as being kind of obsolete. Like it references Wisteria Lane, which is no longer on the Blanchard's department store. So
Sure.
maybe just the address there. And I'll send you the rest in an email. They're just sort of along those lines.
Okay, I will see if we can get these changed. Obviously, this was written in 2020 and 2021, and so you're right, things do change over time. So it's not a hard thing to do.
Okay, other comments or questions? All right, we're doing well. 5 minutes in and we're 50% the way there. So the second item is also Mr. Bond's. It's municipal code changes and definitions related to isolated wetlands. So Mr. Bond, that's yours also.
Well, we're 50% of the way there by time, but you're going to have to scroll all the way to page 340 of your packet, and it's the last 3 pages. So the issue before you is a relatively minor code amendment, and this has been discussed at the Planning Commission and is going forward for a hearing on at the June Planning Commission meeting. I believe that's June 7th. The issue that we've uncovered is that when we updated our critical areas code in 2016 under the state mandate, the guidance from Commerce at that time included a definition for isolated wetland, and that definition basically requires that the only person who can determine whether a wetland is isolated is the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. And unfortunately, the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers has no interest in making these determinations. And if you apply to them to get that type of determination, it takes 1 to 2 years. So we have a project right now that is hung up because there's an isolated wetland involved in that project. And this definition, even though state law gives Port Orchard control over isolated wetlands in terms of what can happen to isolated wetlands in terms of filling and being mitigated. Right now, that applicant would have to apply to the Corps of Engineers, and hopefully in 18 months to 24 months, they would get an answer that would allow them to complete their permit process. So I contacted some staff at the Department of Ecology and spoke to a gentleman named Rick Mraz, and he said that this definition guidance has been deleted from the 2024 guidance that is still in draft form. And he says they would not hold it against us if we wanted to change that. And in fact, most of our neighbors have not adopted this definition of isolated wetland. And so we worked with our attorneys and our biologist, who is our on-call consultant, to come up with a proposed new definition that gives us more flexibility. It still requires that the property owner go through any hoops on their own before, and they take responsibility for anything that they do with an isolated wetland, but it doesn't hold us to seeking Corps of Engineer approval when somebody comes forward with a report that certifies that a wetland is isolated. So the proposal is to change the definition. Our hope is that this will go through a hearing at the Planning Commission in a week and a half or 2 weeks from now, and then can be voted or recommended for approval, and then can come forward for adoption at the City Council in June. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Councilmember Diener.
So, Nick, this seems like pretty straightforward, pretty reasonable change, but has DOE actually looked at our proposed definition?
Yeah, we talked to DOE, and we talked to 2 different people. Rick Mraz is the policy lead for the department, and he, when he read the first definition, he said, "I don't love it, but it's fine." It was kind of his reply. And then we worked with our attorney to provide some additional clarification based on his feedback. Then when we sent out our SEPA notice for this, we got a call, I believe, from Ecology, from a different staff person wondering why we were doing this. And once we explained it, they said they had no objection. So there hasn't been any direct review, but I shared Bremerton's definition, I shared Puyallup's definition, and a couple of others with the Department of Ecology, and they kind of pointed me to the one that they felt like worked the best. I also talked to the biologist representing this applicant who's currently stuck in permitting, and they agreed that this would be acceptable.
Thank you.
Okay. Other questions or comments? It sounds like going to the Planning Commission. You guys will see this sometime in June. Go ahead, Mark. Councilmember Trenary.
Yeah, Nick. So these folks that are stuck in the permit process, what happens to them? Are they still got to ride that through since they're already partway through that process?
Yeah, so our critical areas code, even if you're going to impact an isolated wetland, which has to be less than, I think, 4,000 square feet, you still have to prepare a mitigation plan showing how you're mitigating those impacts. And so they have not yet completed their mitigation plan and are working on it. And so I would expect that by the time this change has been put into effect, the applicant will have an updated mitigation plan, and hopefully we'll be a little bit closer to issuing permits.
All right, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Other comments, questions? All right. Thank you, Mr. Bond. I got a few little housekeeping things. You guys, whether you like it or not, you missed out on my mayor's report. So I got a few things here I'd like to share from my mayor's report. So summer interns are coming. We got 2 of the 3 starting tomorrow. So we have 3 interns this year. One will be working out at Public Works, creating a digital catalog for our Public Works safety program. One will be working in administration to cover phones, backup front counters, and on a records project. And the last will cover the front counter in Public Works engineering to free up our existing employee, Melinda, so she can work on a records project on the 4th floor. On the 4th floor, if you haven't been up there, we have 311 boxes of records, and we estimate 2,500 sheets of paper per box. And of course, they all have staples and paper clips in them and that need to be removed. So we estimate that that is 777,000 sheets of paper. And if we scanned 300 sheets per hour for 2,592 hours, we could have this project completed in 15 months at 8 hours a day. Unfortunately, we only have the interns for 3 months. So we're going to take a bite out of these records this summer and hope to complete the project in 4 summers. Another alternative we're going to look at is we're going to organize these records and figure out what the heck we have up there. And then potentially, after we've organized them, talk to you about hiring a company to come in and actually do the physical scanning. So after we figure out what we have and how big of a project, because some of this stuff might not need to be retained. And we don't know until we pull the box out and look at every sheet of paper. So that's where we start. And so anyway, we're gonna finally address what's up on the 4th floor. Our 1406, the affordable housing funds, and we've got that contract with Homes of Compassion. They're still looking for 2 homes in Port Orchard. They recently found one in Manchester, but they just haven't found a suitable home in Port Orchard. So if you know someone who with a 3 or 4 bedroom home that they're looking to rent, please put them in contact with me so that I can connect them with Homes of Compassion, because we'd like to find a couple of homes to deploy those dollars and to get some people off of the street and into their program. We're, we've discussed this as the finance office space needs. We discussed this with the finance committee. We're evaluating leasing a couple of office suites near City Hall, and part of it is to accommodate our remodel project that's coming next year. And we really have a 7 to 10 year need for our police department to potentially move our detectives out of downstairs. And at some point in our future, after we've completed a community center and some other priority projects, we likely need to consider building a new police station and court, and that would likely be on our Tremont project. But that's probably at least 10 years away or more. So we need to have some kind of some stopgap solution. And as you guys know, I missed last week's meeting because I was at the association meeting with the Association of Washington Cities. I'm on the executive board. We met with the Association of Counties executive board, discuss both of our legislative priorities, and we're looking for common ground so that we can have a position paper on issues that the counties and cities are both passionate about, so that we can advocate on that this is important to counties and cities. And so that was one of the outcomes of that meeting. And I know Councilmember Ternary and I spent Saturday with a group of Rotarians. If you haven't been out to Etta Turner Park, you need to stop by. It looks fabulous. We spread 20 yards of beauty bark and did a bunch of work out there, and it looks absolutely fabulous. So shout out to the South Kitsap Rotarians for the work that they did on Saturday. We knocked that out in about 2 hours. And I felt it the next day. That was for certain. Windermere is planning another community service day on June 6th at McCormick Village Park. If you'd like to join me, it starts at 10 o'clock in the morning, and we're going to spread beauty bark at the entrance, and we're going to spread wood chips in the 2 dog parks. So, and if there's anybody else out there in the world associated with an organization or a group of neighbors, and you want to do some community service, we've got projects and we can help you out. So I'd really like to get back to the citywide community service day like we did prior to the pandemic, and maybe we can bring that back to life next summer. So we're going to test our the new equipment's been installed in the council chamber, and people were trained last Friday. We're going to do a managers meeting in there tomorrow to try it out. And Public Facilities District on Monday is going to be our first guinea pig with using the equipment related to the dais ahead of our council meeting next Tuesday. So so go get a haircut, put away those pajama bottoms, and because we're all going to be in person next Tuesday, I hope, in the council chambers. So and then we need to talk about these work study meetings and whether we want those in person or we want to keep those on Zoom. But we'll for sure get a couple council meetings in the chambers under our belts, and then talk about work study and our committee meetings. And a video was shared with, and Brandy, if you could cue up this video and share your screen. This is a state, and this video was shared with me at my meeting with the Association of Counties, and I've sensed this in my work when I'm down in Olympia, that some of us in local government they don't think we know what we're doing. And this particular representative is a Bothell City Council member, and we'll be writing her a letter from the Association of Washington Cities that we're not pleased with her comments. She was at a land use conference, and Brandy, it's a minute and a half. So Brandy, if you could just play this video, I kind of find it kind of appalling. So the person speaking is Representative Dewar. Your sound isn't working, Brandy. Your sound is only working playing out of your office. You want to stop the video.
Brandy, is your computer on mute for the Zoom meeting?
All right, I got to unmute myself and then play the video. What a concept. Okay, start over, and here we go.
Davina, anything to add?
Oh, I have so much to add. The local control, it's garbage. It's just complete garbage. Because I'll tell you, local electeds don't know anything. They literally don't know anything. They go in. No, I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding. You get elected and you're just so excited to be there. And the easiest thing in the world to do is what staff recommends, because they don't know anything. They don't research. They haven't done their homework. They know nothing about policy. But they like the title. Most of them just like the title, and it's super easy to show up and do what staff recommends. And I'll tell you, I know many local electeds who would love for the state to step in, because we are the ones that get accosted in the grocery store by our neighbors who say, how dare you consider upzoning? We couldn't even get an upzone along a coming BRT line in Bothell. The coming BRT line, and we have single family homes on that road. And my fellow electeds didn't have the balls to upzone it. So it's complete garbage. The other thing that local electeds need to understand is this concept called crop yield. Single family houses don't pay for the services that they get from the cities. They just simply don't. So they're subsidized. And if people understood that and were made to understand that, you know, multifamily and everything but single family is going to get you better property tax yield so that we're not all in structural deficits, I think they would change their tune. But until they understand that, they're going to keep doing the easy thing and just whatever staff says we should do because they don't know any better. It's the easy way.
So about the only thing that was accurate was the crop yield comment, but I don't know about you, I find that appalling, and she will be receiving a letter from the Association of Washington Cities that that just isn't acceptable behavior. It's when you're a speaker at a conference. Your Councilmember Diener, you're muted.
Do you get to review that letter before it goes out, Rob?
My signature is going on that letter.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Well, one thing that I think is important to add is we have staff that know what they're doing. So that's a big part of it. If you have trust in your staff, that makes it a lot easier. And I'm sure you know all the hits that you need to make on this, but yeah.
We're, and the letter, while we're disappointed, we want to turn this into an opportunity to sit down with this person and maybe change the mindset, because she is an elected official and our lobbyists need to work with these folks, and we don't want to make the situation worse, but we need to call out bad behavior when we see bad behavior, and this isn't acceptable behavior. So I'm certain you all agree with me. She is also a Bothell City Council member, so she's talking about her peers, and I'm so thankful that we have respect for each other, because I don't think any one of you would ever do anything like that. Councilman Rose Pepe?
No, it just that was mind-boggling, and would certainly be cannon fodder for the next election.
Yeah, I think that was my point. Is I want to share that with other people that it is bad behavior, and anyway, that's everything I have. Sorry to end. I should have done that first and talked about positive things afterwards, but we're going to give you back the rest of your evening. The sun's out, and if there's anything for the good of the order from you folks, Councilmember Trenary.
Yeah, Mayor, can you give us a brief update on the county park? How are we doing up there?
That's on the normal business as a standing item. I think I saw an email earlier in the week from Katie Casada, our code enforcement officer. I think there's 3 campsites still in there that the county's dealing with. It's mostly cleaned up. And the county's out there every day, and trying to remedy the situation. Is that an accurate summary, Ms. Archer?
It is, yes, that's what I would have said as well.
And do you want that to continue as a standing item still on your agenda to talk about, or is it sufficiently resolved? You let me know.
Like it's resolved yet?
Okay, yeah, I would say we're 98% there, but okay.
Is that 3 campers that are reluctant to leave, that are refusing to leave, essentially?
Go ahead.
They were campsites that were located in an obscured area, very far down into the stream corridor. So they were missed during the cleanup, is our understanding. They also, one of them at least moved during the cleanup multiple times to try to evade the cleanup. So they are ones that I understand are the folks are being offered additional services, and we're going to follow up with the county as to long-term plans for them.
Councilmember Clausen, go ahead.
Yeah, I just drove by this weekend and noticed that there's some blue tarps and tents close to 166 there. So they're much harder to see now that the leaves are out on the trees, but I caught a glimpse and I didn't stop to go down there, but it's not terribly far down in the canyon.
Okay, appreciate that.
And we just got to be careful, throwing too many stones here. We have our own challenges on our city properties. We are working in earnest on a policy that I intend to share with you soon. There's three different flavors to this. There's one where it's private property. There's public properties like the county's park that are properties that should be open to the public. And then the third flavor is public property that nobody should be on. Their stormwater tracts, their property, and one in particular is a property that we've purchased. We intend to be a storm tract, and there's very we need to have a very prescriptive processes for dealing with this. And I think one of the solutions is we're going to need to enter into a contract with a service provider to help us with some of this, because our staff just isn't equipped to deal with some of this. But we've had a couple of meetings on this subject matter, and our attorney is working on completing those policies that we'll share with you soon. And so, you know, it's not just the county. The city has this problem too. So, you know, then the county is working hard to resolve it. Any other questions about this or any other matters for good of the order? All right. Have a good evening. We'll see you in person next Tuesday.
All right.
6:30
Thanks,
sharp at the
everybody.
council chambers.
All right.
See ya.
See ya.